Hello, everyone, and welcome back to the CDL podcast. I am your host, Ryan, and this is going to be the pre-champs show. If you guys couldn't tell, I'm pretty hyped to be back and doing the podcast with you all. It's been a while. I mean, we made that COD Dream Team video that got some pretty good support last week, but that wasn't really a podcast where I got to go in depth in the CDL. That was more of like a blast from the past type episode. So it's been like 2 full weeks since we've actually done a real episode. So I'm hyped to do it, and I hope you guys are all staying safe in this crazy time we're in the world. Can't believe it's still going on and still so prevalent, but I hope you're all healthy and well, and your families are all doing well, and you're all staying healthy, because obviously nobody deserves to be sick in this terrible time. And before we get started, I wanted to let you know if you're new, please subscribe to the channel. We're now on the road to 200 subs. We somehow amazingly hit 100 subs. An unreal number to me, and now we're on the road to 200. So if you're new and you enjoy the videos, I'd appreciate it if you dropped a sub, and then as well leave a like if you enjoy this video, and most importantly, comment down below your thoughts on the video as well. If you have any predictions for champs, any thoughts on the news that I share, although it's not that new of news. If you have any thoughts on the CDL as a whole, leave a comment down below. And like I said, before we get into the bracket predictions, we are going to touch on some news that has been recently occurring in the CDL. Some of it is a little bit older, but like I said, we haven't done a podcast in 2 weeks. So besides like maybe a tweet or two on the subject, I haven't really been able to go into like extreme detail on many of the things that have happened. So just want to give some quick thoughts on those before we get into the meat of the episode, which is the predictions for champs. First thing is, I did tweet about it, but GodRx was benched. Obviously, by now you all know this, but I just want to give some thoughts on it. I understand wanting to speed up the pace of the team because they do play a little slower, and, well, in certain games, certain older CODs with typical spawns and typical maps, slower teams could have success if they played the game a little slower, but extremely correctly. They could find a way to have success on the map and be a good team, although in this game, it's very hard to constantly be a super smart team and predict spawns, as they are so random, and the plays that people can make with the non-3-lane maps are so random that it's hard to be a slower, more methodical team. So things kind of caught up to them once everybody started to learn like as well as the game as they could. But it is a little weird to bench him this late. I understand, like I said, wanting to speed it up with Exceed, but you'd think that you'd bench GodRx if he was the guy that you wanted to bench, like with 2 home series left, so you could try out Exceed for an event or 2, and if it wasn't working, then you could bring GodRx back. But now you really have no idea on a tournament setting if Exceed is going to work in the lineup, so it does seem a little weird. And GodRx does have a 1.1 in hardpoint and S&D roughly since it went online, and a 0.9 in Dom, which is far from like the 1.3s in like every mode he was putting up on land as an MVP candidate. But it's not like 1.1s and 0.9s are bad. I guess the team just must feel like the vibe with him, or the playstyle with him just isn't successful, and if they have somebody else faster, it might work. But it still feels weird to do this late and jeopardize the relationship with him, because on LAN, he was definitely your all-star. He was a legit MVP candidate, so it feels weird in a new franchise league where you're typically, like, if they were an organization, maybe they'd be planning to get out of Call of Duty after this year, but no, now they're in the CDL. They're a franchise league. They're here to stay. So it feels weird to jeopardize your relationship with the guy that you view as your all-star. If it is going back to LAN next year and you plan on him being your star, he might not want to play for you or with any of these players, since they kind of did him dirty here before champs. Then next, quickly I want to touch on it. I don't think I did at all in the last podcast, but the 5 MVP candidates for the year were announced, the Astro MVP of the entire season, and it is... I think I did talk about it because I was kind of glad that it wasn't fan voted, because Envoy would probably win it then, and I don't think he deserves it necessarily. But the 5 players are shottzyy, Simp, Cellium, Envoy, and Skies. Quickly to give my opinion on it, to me, I don't think the MVP is Skies, because Skies has had an insane year, but I feel like the subs have been so much more impactful the entire year, so it's pretty hard to give a guy who's been a main AR the entire year the MVP. And also, I'm not convinced he's really the MVP of his team. Because since Fero and Awakening have come in, Florida's been a lot better. They weren't able to win an event without those 2 in the lineup, and then they won 3 with Fero and 2 of them with Awakening. So to me, one of those guys is probably the MVP of Florida. So there's no way that Skies can be the MVP of the league without being the MVP of his team. And then it's also not Envoy to me, because once again, he's below Florida, Faze, and Dallas in the standings, and those are the teams that all the other MVP candidates are from. And he has had an insane year. He's been unreal in Search and Destroy. He's been the route man on Chicago. He's made so many huge plays for the team, and he kind of seems to be like an IGL type player for them. But to me, he's not the MVP because, like I said, they're below people in the standings, and he's had some ups and downs during the year, and his team has had more ups and downs than the others. I mean, I guess Florida has had more ups and downs, but Chicago's had more ups and downs than like Dallas and Atlanta. So to me, shottzyy isn't the MVP, also because he's had other players in his team step up at times. Scump has stepped up at times. Formal has at times. Arcitys has looked like the MVP at times. Even Prestinni has looked very good at times. So to me, it's more of a team effort, and Envoy can't be the MVP because of that. Still had an insane year. To me, I would lean like shottzyy because I think Dallas would be struggling like crazy without him, because not only, like, you can't just purely look at KDs, because if you're purely looking at KDs, you probably go somebody like Simp or Skies, because Skies has such a high KD. But to me, shottzyy gets in so many engagements and plays so fast and opens up the map for guys like Clay and Crim and stuff like that, that I think he should be the MVP. But I can also see Cellium or Simp getting it, because those are two unreal players, and Cellium's had so many crazy 1v2 clutches this year in Search for his team. But if Simp or Cellium get it, I have no problem. I would probably lean shottzyy, but one of those three players to me has to get it. If Skies or Envoy get it, I'd be pretty disappointed. Then the next little thing is, seems like there's unrest in the Huntsmen camp. There's a clip of Arcitys complaining heavily about the Huntsmen streaming scrims because people aren't focused in the discussions between maps. Maybe they should stop scrimming. Or streaming their, not stop scrimming, don't stop scrimming before champs, that'd be a bad decision. But maybe they should stop streaming their scrims the week before champs. If it's causing vibe issues with Arcitys feeling like players are more thanking subs or donations rather than actually listening and offering feedback to the team conversation in between maps, it seems like it's causing a rift in the team. And the last thing you want is a rift in the team going into champs. So maybe they should stop streaming those scrims for the week leading up. I probably would, but I don't know. It's interesting. They've been streaming them all year, so some players might be like, why would we stop now? We've been streaming them all year. But I can see where Arcitys is coming from, definitely. Another piece of news, the servers are acting up like crazy. I saw like Simp and a lot of people saying like they can't even practice because the servers have been so bad. This is just unbelievable to me. I cannot believe that we are a week away from champs. They're doing all this promotion for it, like in the stadium in Warzone, it's there. The Call of Duty Twitter, not the Call of Duty League, but the actual Call of Duty Twitter just tweeted about how champs is coming up and stuff. They're putting calling cards in the games for championship weekend, and yet the players that are playing in it can't even correctly practice because the servers are so bad. There's nothing else to say, but just unbelievable. And then I'm also worried how the top 4 teams are going to scrim, because there is obviously a week in between the beginning of champs where we determine the top 4 teams to that weekend where the top 4 actually play. There's like a week break in between Sunday to Saturday. I'm a little concerned how those top 4 are going to scrim, because anybody who's eliminated is not going to scrim them unless they pay them a ton of money, because why would you want to scrim in a game that you didn't enjoy if your season's already over? You have no more to play for in it. It wouldn't make any sense. You're going on vacation after the stressful year. And then the top 4 probably won't want to scrim each other because they're not going to go hard anyways, because they don't want to give up any other strats or anything before they play for the massive prize pool that we have that next weekend. So it's going to be interesting to see how they do that, because also the amateur champs is done the week before, so AMs are done. So it's going to be very hard for them to find scrims. I'm interested to see how that goes. Another piece of news in the Challengers. Hecz is playing at Challengers Champs. You know how I know a lot of you, if you're Huntsman fans, probably hate Hecz, but at the same time, you may think you hate him, but I feel like you kind of have a soft spot for him, because whether or not he's created a lot of bad memories for any Huntsman fan out there, even if they are bad memories, there's some insane memories you have of Call of Duty that you're probably never gonna forget, and Hecz was probably a part of them, whether it was like World War II champs or Black Ops 3 or knocking him out of certain tournaments and beating him. No matter what it is, even if you think you hate Hecz, he has created for some of the most memorable moments. Even if they were heartbreaking moments, it was like crazy moments that made you love Call of Duty, whether you realize it or not really. So I've always loved Hecz for that. Is just he plays that villain role for most of the community, and to me, he's so good at it, and he's so provocative, and I don't know, I just love Hecz a lot. So I'm glad to see him playing at champs, and he actually has a decent team. It seems like he's teaming with Faze, who was in the Pro League last year, I think, on Elevate, and was actually a pretty good player. Has been a pretty solid player for the last few years. Spacely, I mean, long-time veteran, been in the Pro League multiple times. finished decently high at Champs, seems to do well at Champs every year. TCM, another guy who's been around forever, a solid player. And then Apox, I think he's been around for a while too, and another good player. So they actually have a pretty decent team. I hope they're able to win or at least get like a top 6. Spacely always seems to make a run. And Hecz is obviously a good player. Guys like Profizi, good player. So I'm hoping that they can make a run. And who knows, maybe they can make some noise. And wouldn't it be something if he doesn't play since like the second event of the year and all of a sudden Patty P comes out and just says, Challengers, I'm only going to play in 2 events and I'm going to win Champs. That'd be pretty awesome. I hope it happens. That was kind of a lot to touch on, but that's all I want to do. I want to go through it pretty quick so that way we give ourselves more time to actually look at the bracket and give some detailed thoughts on that. So I'm going to pull up the bracket here and get into predictions for Champs. All right, so we've got the bracket all pulled up here. Here it is, the Champs bracket. Interested to see how things go. I have not very confident predictions coming up for this, and I mean, I am making these predictions 9 days before Champs starts. I'm assuming there's going to be no more roster issues unless there's like some emergency, a player gets a sickness, God forbid, or have like another Alex situation with a bit of a thumb injury or issue or something like that. But other than that, the roster shouldn't be changing at all. They can't change unless it is for a player that is already signed on the team. So like if something happened with a player on Huntsmen, if like Prestinni, something happened to him, Gunless could sub in, like for example, or like if something happened to somebody on Florida, Mox could sub in because they're like already contracted players. You get what I'm saying? But yeah, so I'm going to start making some predictions. The one thing I'm going to say is it's pretty hard to not pick like Huntsmen, Faze, Empire, and Florida to go into the top 4. But even if I end up picking that, I'm pretty confident it's not going to work out that way because something always happens at Champs. The top 4 teams never actually are the top 4 teams. Although, to be fair, we don't have to have teams make it out of pool play, where last year you figured Gen G was going to finish top 4, but they didn't even make it out of pools, and there's no AM teams to come screw things up. So I feel like this year, being that there's only 12 teams, it definitely is the highest chance for the actual top 4 teams to make it to the top 4, but at the same time, it never works that way, no matter what. But I feel a little more confident this year because there are no AM teams to mess things up like they did last year. But we're going to start up right in the top here. I think we're going to go like maybe this whole first round, including the elimination round, the elimination portion of it, and then like keep working our way over, do the whole round, kind of like that. So starting, actually, we'll start down on the bottom here in the elimination portion, actually, just simply because that's the first matches we have. If you guys have been following the podcast all year, I think you should know where I'm going in the Battle of LA. Gorillas have looked so bad recently. They're the 12 seed versus the 9 seed Optic. I'm picking Optic to win this 3-0. I actually have a pretty decent bit of faith in Optic to actually make a run in the tournament. I think they're gonna make an okay run. I don't know if that means they'll be top 8, if they'll be top 6, top 4, who knows? But I think they're gonna get a couple wins under their belt. And then in this other matchup down here, I did pick them to win 3-0 over LAG. Then in this other matchup down here, we've got Paris Legion, Seattle Surge. Recently, Paris has looked a lot better. They were able to make a final. But I think Champs Apathy comes out, Champs Octane comes out. Those players have actually been grinding. Their streams, their scrims. They seem to have been in a lot of 10s lobbies, especially players like Slack seems to be playing 10s all the time and stuff. I think they're finally trying to get into form and be like, okay, we can't finish dead last at Champs. We're way too good of players to do that. And I think it's going to pay off for them. I do pick them to win 3-1, although I do have confidence Paris could force this to a Game 5. The reason I pick it 3-1 is simply because of the fact that if it does go to a Game 5, Paris has been a good search team this year, and Seattle has been an abysmal one. So if it does go Game 5, I feel like Paris will win that, so I can't pick it to go that far. Then up here in the top, got Subliners Rocker. It's an interesting matchup. In the beginning of the year, Rocker were clearly better. Since the online switch, they've been subpar. New York was even subpar average for a little bit of the online switch. Then the meta shifts, they're able to win an event. And then they come to the next event they play at, and they looked pretty darn bad. They were 3-0'd by, I think, like Paris or something, some subpar teams. They were 3-0'd by Paris in that event that Paris went to the finals. Minnesota made a roster change. They dropped arguably their best player in GodRx for Exceed, a player who played at Champs last year with like Chino and Tommy, I believe. But other than that, has really done nothing on the pro scene. He subbed in one time for Alex and had like a 0.5, but we can't really hold that against him because he was subbed in on super short notice with not much practice or ever scrimming with the team. I don't think the change from Minnesota does all that much. I think New York's going to win this. I am going to give the Rocker a map because I still think that they're a pretty good team, and I think that New York is a little bit overrated. They were able to win a tournament with a meta shift that happened like a day or two before the event, and they haven't been able to do much since. Granted, it was only one tournament. I feel like they are an up and down team, and if you're able to get the right New York, I can see them making a run to like top 4, but if you're able to get a New York that's off, I can't see them doing a whole lot, but I am going to at least predict them to beat the Rocker here in the first round. And that brings us down to, in my opinion, of this winners round 1 and elimination round 1, I feel pretty confident picking New York. I feel pretty confident picking Optic. I don't feel all that confident picking Surge, but I don't think either of these teams will make that much noise, so I don't care as much about that matchup. To me, this Royal Ravens versus Ultra match is the toughest one to predict by far. If you'd have given me this matchup 3-4 weeks ago, I would have said London, no problem. London's been the better team all year. And London has looked pretty good recently, but at the same time, Toronto won the last event. They look very good. But the start glitches patch, I think I forgot to talk about that in the news section a little bit. The start glitch did just get patched, and there's a pretty decent consensus within the community that Toronto was probably using the start glitch a decent amount in their win. Don't want to take anything away from them because obviously it's not proven, but if they were, that really hurts Toronto. I still do think Toronto's a very good team, but I'm actually going to pick them to lose this one. I'm going to go 3-2. I think like I said, if the champs would have happened a month ago, a lot of people would have predicted London to win, but I think I'm actually making my bracket a little more different by picking London to win, because I think more people now, after seeing that last event, are going to pick Ultra based on recency bias, and I certainly think Ultra could win this, and I think Ultra could make a run through the winners bracket, but for some reason, as you know, I've had faith in London all year. I think Wuskin and Scraps, the twin duo, are going to go off at champs here. I think Dylan is maybe going to finally get into the form that we were hoping to see him. If Shawnee can stay consistent and Zero can stay consistent, those are the players that we don't really look to go off, but we look for them to stay consistent. If they're able to stay around a 1.9 and make the right plays, the smart plays, and not do anything stupid, and then Dylan is able to maybe hit his form, and then Wuskin stays in form and Scrap stays in the recent form we've seen him, I think London can make a run, and I think they're able to beat the Ultra 3-2 here. So that brings us to our second round. We'll do the losers section again like we did last time, the less important matches. We've got Rocker, Optic. I think you all know where I'm going here. I'm going to give Rocker a map again. But I think Optic takes it. I think Slasher is not going to go out that easy at champs. I think Draza and Hollow are going to continue to keep playing better and better. And I hope TJ gets into form, and I hope Kenny gets into form, because if they do, they have a legit chance to make like a top 4 run. But here, I think it's pretty simple. Rocker don't win a series here at champs. I think that the team has been chalked for a while, and I don't think switching in Exceed changes a whole lot. Although I do like the change in some ways, even though I said earlier, I do understand what they're trying to do. A lot of teams have had success when subbing in new players, but most of those teams have subbed in players who have been dominating in the AM bracket, like Awakening or MerK or players like that, or Draza and Hollow. But Minnesota subbing in a player who's been on their bench all year and hasn't really been playing, so I think it has a little bit less of an impact. Although I think the speed could help, I don't think it's enough to beat Optic. And then down here in the other elimination match, man, I want to pick Surge so bad because I'd love to see Surge make a run. But I think Toronto's been too hot recently, and I think they've been too good to just like write them off instantly and be like, they're going to lose both series at champs and not win one. That's just a little bit weird to me. So I do think that Toronto's able to get this one. I think they win it another 3-1. I'll give Seattle like maybe the map 1 hardpoint or the map 3 domination. I don't think Seattle wins a search because they're just so bad at him. And Ultra is so good at them. But I think out of respect to Seattle, I think they're able to take one of the map 1 or the map 3 respawn against Ultra, who sometimes can struggle in respawns. But Ultra are too good of a team. They've been in too good a form recently to lose, so I think they take out Seattle and knock out Seattle. What would that be? Top 10, I think that would be. Yeah, I think top 10 that would be. And then we've got up in the winner side, an interesting matchup right here. Huntsmen, New York. I know I said I think New York's a little overrated, but Zuma and Attach always seem to have the Scump and Formal team's number. Whether it was in AW, nobody could ever beat Optic once they picked up Karma, but the one team who was able to do it was Faze with Zuma and Attach. So I don't know, it's just weird to me to pick against Huntsmen because it's they have a bye to this round. It's their first match of the tournament. It's champs time. Scump seems to step up at champs. Formal seems to step up at champs. Arcitys and Prestinni are the defending champs. And then Envoy, although he had a very bad champ showing last year, is one of the M5 MVP candidates for the season. So it's really weird to predict Huntsmen to lose, and I don't think I'm going to here. I think that the Huntsmen are going to take out subliners, and I want to say it's going to be in a 3-0 fashion because I feel like Huntsmen are going to come start the weekend hot, but I don't think that's going to be the case. I think subliners are going to take a map. I think some of you might think it's weird to pick the Huntsmen not only to win this, but to win it 3-1 or 3-0. I think a lot of you would say they're going to win it 3-2 or even lose it, and I wouldn't really have too much of an issue if you predicted against Huntsmen, simply because of the fact that, well, let's be honest, the Huntsmen have struggled on and off this year. New York did 3-0 them recently in a finals, but I think that was a large part due to the meta. New York was way comfortable in that meta that had like 3 or 4 ARs in the map with Temp and Mac using them, and even attach in certain situations. But I think the Huntsmen are going to be able to win this one. I feel like they're just a more consistent team than the subliners, even though they have been a little bit inconsistent. I think that they have players that perform well at champs. They have 2 defending champs who want to keep defending that. So Huntsmen win at 3-1. And then down in this next match, I really don't know where to go with this. The obvious pick is, it's clearly Florida because the simple fact that Florida, they are a very good team. At times this year, they've been the best team in the world. Awakening's looked amazing. Fero's looked amazing. Skies is one of our 5 MVP candidates. Frosty's been consistently good, and Havoc's been the route man, the entry man for the team. Oh, but something about me tells me to go a little different here. And like I said, I don't want to just sit here and predict, Huntsmen, Faze, Empire, and Florida, they're not going to lose on their way to the top 4 or whatever. And then you're going to have to pick all the higher seeds. I think it's shocking to even say that London's going to beat Ultra, but I'm going to say London's actually going to beat Florida too. I was planning on picking, I kind of did a quick mock-up of the bracket before I started recording this, and I was planning to pick Florida, but for some reason after just staring at this matchup just for a little bit longer and thinking through and not wanting, because it's champs. Nothing ever goes the way you think it's going to go. It never ends up being just, the top 4 teams have no adversity until they play each other. So I think London's finally going to get over that hump of not being able to beat top teams. They're going to say, screw it, it's champs time. It's time for us to get it done. I think they're going to beat Florida 3-2. I wouldn't be shocked if Florida 3-0's London. I wouldn't be shocked if Florida wins it all. But I am going to pick London to switch up the bracket a little bit. I think it's probably a pretty bold pick, maybe even a stupid pick, you might say. But I've had blind faith in London all year, as any of you listeners who have been listening for the majority of the year, I've had blind faith in London for some reason. I think they're always right on the edge of getting it done, but either get screwed out because of some interesting circumstances or get in their own heads or whatever. But here I think they're able to do it 3-2. I think they win it. So now we're in round 3. That is, it's a pretty loaded round. To me, who I have Gorillas, Legion, Surge, and Rocker eliminated. So to me, I actually do have these are my top 8 teams here. I think 3 of my top 4 are here. Then obviously Florida was in my top 4. But these are my actual top 8 teams here. I don't have any of the 9 through 12 teams. Surprising. My 9th team would probably be Paris. 10 would probably be Rocker. 11 Surge, stuff like that. And I have none of those teams actually making the top 8. So we have my actual top 8 here, which never seems to happen. So if you're putting your bets in, bet on Minnesota or Surge or Paris making the top 8, because your top 8 never seems to make it. But we're going to go with it. My elimination round down here, we've got Optic, Florida. To me, this is the hardest match so far to predict. Florida's been so good all year, though, that I can't pick them to lose 2 matches at champs right away. This would be the playing for top 6 here, which is where the money starts to get a little bigger. I think Florida's going to win it. I actually think they win it in a map 5, though. I think it goes very, very, very tight. I think that Optic is going to surprise a lot of people and be very good. I think they're going to have a very good showing on the weekend that doesn't feel like they deserve top 8. It's going to feel like they deserve top 6 or top 4 based on how well they play. But because of the fact that they're starting in losers, they have no room for error, and then they're going to get probably hit a little harder than they would expect to here in elimination round 3, because they're probably expecting to play London or Toronto after they most likely lose to Florida. But unfortunately for Optic, the year of woes and struggles and unluckiness is going to probably continue for them, in my opinion, because I think that Florida's going to get knocked down here and have to play them, and they're going to be like, great. Mental's going to be shattered a little bit, and I think Florida gets the win 3-2. And then our other elimination round 3 matchup, it is the Subliners versus Ultra. If you've heard a little bit on how I'm talking both of the teams so far in this video, you might have an idea where I'm going to go. And I'm looking back at my bracket here. We've got 3-1, 3-2, 3-0, 3-1, a bunch of 3-1s. And we don't have like any 3-0s. We're going to put a 3-0 here. Ultra are going to 3-0 Subliners to knock them out of the tournament at top 8. Yeah. Interesting that I went there, right? Do I feel confident in that pick? Zero confidence in it. But like I said, we're picking London to do something. We're going to pick Ultra to also make some noise. And I think they're going to 3-0 New York. I have about zero confidence in that pick, like I've had in a lot of the picks. Here in this tournament, because, well, it's champs time. It's super unpredictable. We haven't seen the teams play in nearly a month come champs time. But I'm picking Ultra to 3-0 them. I think New York's going to struggle here. I think that their championship was a little bit of a fluke. Now, granted, they're a team with Zuma attached, Temp, players like that. Mac this year has almost been their best player, and even Accuracy. Those are players that have a history of doing well at champs. So there's a pretty good chance they win this matchup. But just to be different, I'm going Ultra 3-0. And then here in the top section of the bracket, it feels like it's pretty obvious on who to pick here. We've got Huntsmen and Faze in the top matchup. We've seen them play once this year, and Huntsmen absolutely dominated Faze 3-0. And once again, in the mock-up, I was predicting Faze to actually win this one, maybe like a 3-1 fashion. But for some reason, when seeing it again, all you Huntsmen fans are going to be happy. I'm saying Huntsmen win it, and I'm saying they win it in a 3-1 fashion. I think that Faze maybe have a little bit of demons from the last time they played, and Huntsmen were able to beat them 3-0, and I don't even know why I'm picking Huntsmen. I think Faze are a better team, but I think Champs Time Scump and Champs Time Formula are going to come out. I think Arcitys is going to continue to be consistent how he has been all year, same with Envoy, and I think Prestinni is going to be the X factor, and I think he's going to step up in this series. He's going to see Simp and Abizi and kind of want to prove that, last year I was a big part of that team too, and he's going to have something to prove, and I think he's going to come out firing on all cylinders, and I think the Huntsmen win it 3-1. Shocking, because before I started this video, I was thinking I was going to pick Faze to win that matchup. But I guess I've had something weird come over me. I thought London's going to make a run, and I think Huntsmen are going to make a run. But then down here in the next match, in winners round 3, match that probably you won't expect to see. A lot of you are probably expecting to see Dallas versus Florida. This is Dallas's first match of the weekend, which also has something to do with maybe London's coming in a little hot, but I think that doesn't matter here. I think Dallas is able to take it. I think that's going to also be a 3-1. I think that it could go 5, and I could maybe see London being able to squeak it out, but I feel pretty confident that Dallas is going to win this. They've got likely my MVP pick in shottzyy, and they've got Crim, who's been playing better recently. Clay's been a good main AR all year. Illey's been looking better recently, and huke is like one of the leading killers in the CDL. Like flying under the radar somehow is huke, because he's got all these other talented players on his team finally. But I think Empire are going to win it 3-1. I think it's pretty disrespectful to have Empire lose their first match to London when they've been able to beat them most of the year, and Empire's been one of the most consistently great teams all year. So I think they're able to win it and meet up with Chicago in the winners finals. So that makes our top 6: Huntsmen, Empire, Faze, Mutineers, Royal Ravens, Ultra. I feel like that's a pretty, some bold predictions in there, but really, I mean, apart from maybe you could switch out London or Ultra for Optic or New York, and then maybe you could maybe see that happening. But other than that, I think this top 6 is going to be a pretty common one. But we'll start down here in elimination round 4 to see who makes our final weekend. The first matchup on the top is 2 teams that I think have a legit chance to win this tournament. I would not be shocked if Florida and Faze are meeting each other in winners finals. I think that could definitely happen. But in my bracket, just to be a little different, they end up meeting in elimination round 4, playing for the spot in top 4. And I think that Faze is going to get the better of them. I think it's going to be a 3-2, though. I do think that Florida is going to play them very tight. And it's a super disappointing finish for Florida if they do end up finishing in this top 6 position, because let's face it, at times this year, they looked like they were going to win champs because they were the best team. But in my bracket, they bow out at top 6. Now, this could end up looking really stupid because I think Florida has one of the highest chances to win it. I just think they get a tough bracket. I think them playing London early on is going to hurt them. Even if they don't, they have to play Empire in that next round. And even if they end up getting past their first round matchup, I think that they're going to lose to Empire and fall down into losers pretty early. I do think I do think Florida could win the tournament. Wouldn't be shocked if they do, but just for the sake of predictions, I'm having them knocked out by Faze here 3-2. Then in our bottom matchup here in Elimination Round 4, we have got London versus the Ultra. A rematch of Round 1. It's weird to say, but they haven't been able to really beat the top teams all year. But once again, they're going to get the win. London's going to win it. It's going to be a hot 3-1. You thought I was going to say hot 3-0, didn't you? But it's going to be a 3-1. I'm predicting a lot of 3-1s just because it feels weird to predict 3-0s at champs. But I think London's going to be able to win this. That's shocking because London getting top 4 when they haven't been able to beat a top team all year. It's weird, but I just have this weird feeling it's going to happen. Some European teams got to make some noise. You got no European players on Empire or Huntsmen. I guess Tommy is on the bench of Empire, but no European players on Faze. There obviously are a couple on Toronto, but we're going to get a full European team in here. And London's going to beat Toronto 3-1. A good showing from Toronto. Honestly, from where they were at the beginning of the year, if they are able to finish top 6, that's not a bad finish for them. And then here we are, championship weekend. The top 4 I have here are Huntsmen, Empire, Faze, and Ravens. Like I said, I'm sure pretty much all of you will have Huntsmen, Empire, and Faze in your top 4. Most of you will probably have Florida here, or maybe like New York. I don't think you'd have anybody besides Florida or New York here in most of your predictions. Some of you, if you're ultra fancy, maybe will predict them to get there, but I feel like the most consensus pick will be either like Florida or New York there, like I said. But this is what my top 4 is. Like I said, hopefully this is actually the top 4 and I get it right because there is like a prize for if you have the best bracket or whatever, or there is like if you get like a perfect bracket, you get like $100,000 or something. So hopefully I have a perfect bracket. I doubt it because that includes like map count and everything. You know how unlikely that is. But this is my top 4. Like I said, if it does end up changing, like let's say the top 4 is like Seattle and Optic and Faze and London somehow. I don't even know if that's possible. But let's say those are somehow the top 4. Then I'll probably make like a quick prediction video before championship weekend showcasing those 4 and where I think it's going to go. But I obviously won't change that up if this is the top 4. But if it's anything different than this top 4, I'll probably make a video doing new predictions before that. But here we are in Elimination Round 5. We've got Faze versus Royal Ravens. I think you know where I'm going to go. I think Faze is going to win this one. I think it's going to be a 3-0. I think London's magic finally ends. I think Faze come out super hot, and they're able to beat London 3-0. Actually, no, screw that. I'm giving London a map because Faze has been historically slow starting this year. I think maybe London takes like the initial hard point, and then Faze rolls off 3 straight or something. But I think Faze is able to win this one. Faze has been too good all year for them to bow out in anything higher than like top 3 or anything lower than like top 3. A super great showing from London. It's going to be really disappointing to see them lose in top 4 because I kind of almost want to see them win it all just for the crazy storyline. But they have nothing to be ashamed of. They've been on the cusp of like top 6 team all year, and for them to get top 4 would be pretty impressive to me. And then in the winners finals, we've got Scump versus Crim, T2P versus Crim, an interesting matchup. The safe pick to me here is Empire, but for some reason, I want to pick Huntsmen. I don't know why. I really think that the Huntsmen might lose their first match of the weekend or of champs when they play subliners because Zoom and Attach always have their number. But for some reason, just like I had in that one tournament, I just have this weird feeling about Huntsmen. Every year they seem to find a way to be in. I mean, either way they're going to be in top 3 since they're in winners finals. But they always seem to like find a way to just finish high at champs. I mean, besides like World War II, they seem to find a way. I feel like Scump and Formal are going to find a way again to finish really high. Obviously, top 3, even if they would lose this and lose their next one, is pretty darn good. And I'm going to say they're going to win it, actually. I was going to go the other way, but I'm going to say they're going to win it 3-2 and knock Empire down to the elimination finals. I don't know why. That's a complete gut feeling. I wouldn't be shocked at all if Empire win. I mean, to be honest, the smart pick is probably Empire because they've been a more consistent team. Huntsman has had their number in the beginning of the year, but Empire flipped the script and more recently has been able to beat the Huntsmen. But for some reason, I just have this weird feeling with the veteran players in their team. They're going to be able to step up and maybe shottzyy and Illey and younger players and huke who haven't been this far in champs, maybe they underperform a little bit. I doubt it, but something about like the veteranness and Scump stepping up like he did last year at champs. I just feel this weird feeling that Huntsmen are gonna do it and win that matchup. But it's gonna be a close one, and I won't be shocked if Empire win it. And then here we've got Atlanta Faze versus Dallas Empire. I don't even know. This is so tough to predict. I think that I'm going Faze in this one too, and I think it's going to be another 3-2. I think that Empire, I think that they could easily win this, and if they do, I could see them winning it all, but it feels weird to not have Faze in the final after they've been consistently the best team all year. They're the number 1 seed. I don't even have them in winners finals despite being the number 1 seed, so I feel like I gotta put them in the finals. In a classic Hecz versus Faze, the real optic versus Faze, kind of, if you will, in the finals. Seems like it's fitting for the first year of champs in this crazy year, since we haven't been able to see them match up all year. Why not see them match up in the finals of the biggest tournament? Faze beats Dallas 3-2. And then here, in the finals, in the championship, we've got Huntsmen versus Faze. And it's a best of 9 with the Huntsmen starting up 1-0. So we'll just give the Huntsmen the map already, because since they are coming out of winners this year, you do get a 1-0 map count. So Huntsmen are guaranteed to have 1 map win because they start up 1-0. Now, if you were to tell me if this was the typical format where it's 2 best of 5s, it's really hard to win 2 best of 5s against a team. If this were that typical format, I say there's no way that Scump and Formal and Arcitys and Prestinni and Envoy, players of that caliber, are ever losing 2 best of 5s. But for some reason, in this really momentum swingy type best of 9, where it's not really technically 2 best of 5s, I just have a weird feeling that it's going to be a little different. I think Faze is going to win it all. I think they're going to win it all. I was going to say 5-3 originally, because in my original thoughts on the bracket, I did have Faze winning 5-3, but I had them coming out of winners over Huntsmen. I did have Huntsmen actually making it here in losers, but I'm going to say 5-4. I think it's going to go the distance. I think Huntsmen are going to win 3 maps, but they do have that 1-0 advantage coming out of winners, so it's going to end up being 5-4 because of that. But in my opinion, I think that if Faze is coming out of this in winners versus Chicago, I think it'll be a 5-3, because I think Chicago is only going to win 3 maps, and Faze is going to win 5. Huntsman starts out with that 1-0 advantage, so that equals 5-4. I think Faze are going to take it. So there you have it. There's my bracket. I think Faze over Huntsman in the finals. I think it's going to be a super close matchup. To me, I see Huntsman, Faze, or Empire taking this tournament. That's why I have them in my top 3. I think those are my top 3 teams. Florida has been able to beat Huntsman pretty much all year, but I feel like the veteran players on Huntsman are going to have something to say about that. So I have them in my top 3 ahead of Florida, just for champs only, not in the power rankings. But yeah, I think I'd be pretty shocked if Empire, Faze, or Huntsman don't win it. Then my outlier team would be like a Florida or a London or a New York or something like that. But I'm picking Faze to win at 5-4. So there you have it. There's the bracket. I would love to see your guys' predictions down below in the comments. What you guys thought about this video. What you guys thought about all the news. I think that's going to do it for this video. We probably will. We might post one more video here before champs, another non-podcast, maybe I talked about top guns in competitive COD history, and a tier list or something along those lines. You guys seem to enjoy the tier maker videos, so comment down below if you do enjoy those videos, if you'd like to see, if you have a different idea for a video of something you'd like to see before champs. Be sure to subscribe if you are new to the channel and you enjoyed the video. Drop a like as well if you enjoyed the video. The likes really do help out the channel, help get exposure to people who maybe haven't watched the videos before and would enjoy them. And then, like I said, most importantly, comment down below any thoughts you have. What are your predictions? You can also DM me if you comment on here and stuff. You can DM me a picture on Twitter of what your bracket looks like. I'll put the Twitter in the description to follow it if you haven't already. But yeah, be sure to like, comment, and subscribe on this video. Look out for possibly a video again before champs comes up. I hope you guys enjoyed this video. I really enjoyed recording it. I missed recording a podcast, and it was only 2 weeks, so I'm going to have to try to find content to talk about during the offseason to record, because I'm going to miss it way too much to take months off at a time. But yeah, that's going to do it. Thank you guys so much for watching. I hope you enjoyed, like I said. Hope you guys enjoy this time. You're staying safe, healthy. Hope you enjoy this little break before champs. I think champs will be a really fun one. I'm looking forward to it, and I will see you in the next video. Maybe before champs, or maybe as a reaction to the first weekend of champs. Thanks for watching.